Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
Terrahawks, Nightmare at 100 Million Feet. Adapted by Ellis Pagon from an original script by David Nightingale. Ellis Pagon also reads the story alongside Chris Dale, Steve Beresford and Lynn McKinnon. The Earth year is 2020. Alien spaceships manned by androids approach the planet Mars. The NASA expedition headquarters there is spectacularly destroyed. The androids have journeyed from the planet Guk, and now their witch-like commander, Zelda, sets up her base on Mars and lays her plans for the invasion of Earth and the destruction of the human race. Alerted by the first alien attack in 2017, the High Command of the United Nations appointed Dr. David Nightingale to devise and establish an elite international fighting force to defend the world against the unknown aggressors. This small, dedicated team is called the Terrahawks. From their secret base somewhere in South America, they develop their sophisticated weaponry and prepare for the battles to come. In Zelda's ship on the planet Mars, Youngstar was in a bad mood.
I'm getting tired of this place,
he complained. The evil Queen Zelda, however, was having none of it.
Do I detect despondency amongst my son?
She snapped. Began Youngstar.
It's just that, well, we don't seem to be making much progress towards the Earthlings, do we, Mother?
Perhaps not until now. Maybe the frontal attack is too obvious. I have a plan. A plan that will see the Earthlings turn upon themselves and the Terrahawks destroyed for good! Fly, my pretty! Fly out and get them!
To run a crack defense unit, you have to keep your men, women, and robots on alert whenever possible. David Nightingale's method of doing this was to send target drones to Spacehawk for the space station to blow up, and today was no different. 2 target drones hurtled towards Spacehawk, but before they could get any further, the station's zeroid batteries took aim and fired. The drones exploded into 1,000 pieces. Called Mary over Spacehawk's communications systems. She was piloting Treehawk alongside Nightingale. Thank you, Mary, said Hero. But I think you put the target drones on easy mode, just so you can impress Dr. Nightingale.
Come on now, you know Tiger wouldn't let that go unnoticed.
Mary's right, interjected Nightingale. I've been monitoring the test shots from the new weapon systems, and they look fantastic, just fantastic. Well, I think you and 101 had better call it a day. Tomorrow's the final tests, so I want you to be well rested. Treehawk docked with Spacehawk and collected Hero to take him back to Earth. But Hero, Mary, and Nightingale couldn't have known that that night, or should I say an artificial night in Spacehawk that wouldn't upset anyone's biological clock, a soft pulsating light approached the station before dissolving into it and disappearing. Inside a conduit filled with circuitry, the pulsating stopped and the light dimmed, revealing a goblin-like creature. He would have made a menacing entrance had he not been left in midair and dropped 12 inches to the floor. The creature's name was Kizzy. He shuffled down the conduit, checking each circuit board and control box. Stopping at a circuit board, he tapped both a red wire and blue wire with his finger, severing them. He then fused the wires together and sniggered. The next day was the day of the final tests, just as Nightingale had said. "This is Spacehawk," said Hero. "We have a 10:30 for weapons systems tests,"
10:10.
called Mary over the communications systems.
Let's throw you a nice, easy warm-up to start off with.
On either side of Terrahawk's nose, two panels slid back to reveal two torpedo tube apertures. These held the target drones. The drones shot out and hurtled towards Spacehawk. "Fire when ready, 101, said Hero. But the Zeroid batteries didn't fire. "I said, fire when ready," barked Hero at 101.
But I just did, Lieutenant.
Cried 101. The Zeroid batteries fired, but it didn't make any difference. The target drones continued their journey towards the planet Earth undisturbed. Their target was an oil refinery in Nevada, USA. And upon their impact, the refinery's buildings and towers erupted in an orgy of devastating destruction. A few days later, inside Terrahawk's cockpit, Nightingale was expecting a call from Colonel Johnson. "I have Colonel Johnson on the NASA frequency now, sir," called Sergeant Major Zero. "Patch him through, Zero," said Nightingale, "and leave the link open." The video screen in front of Nightingale spluttered into life and gave him an image of Colonel Johnson at his desk. Nightingale didn't think the news was going to be good, and it wasn't. "Dr. Nightingale," began Johnson, "the world president has got a legion of committees and representatives on his back wanting to know what in Spacefire happened in Nevada." "Well, we don't know exactly what happened, Johnson," Nightingale replied, "but my theory that Spacehawk was responsible seems to be correct." "If that's the case, Doctor," snapped Johnson, "then I doubt we'd be able to keep your organization a secret for much longer. There's already too many World Senate representatives looking to make a name for themselves. Do you know what that would mean?" Nightingale knew exactly what this would mean. "An effective end to all our operations," he muttered ruefully. "Precisely," Johnson called out. "Now I've got to report to the world president in 12 hours. You'd better come up with a good explanation by then." Sometime later, in the White House's lounge, the mood was serious. Mary, Kate Kestrel and Hawkeye were sat waiting for Nightingale and Zero, who, sure enough, both came in through the door. Zero bounced up onto a perch. "Well, team," said Nightingale, "we've got 12 hours to come up with an explanation. Any thoughts?" "Could it have been an electrical failure?" asked Kate. "Maybe. Hero's checking for one now," replied Nightingale. "Personally, sir," interrupted Zero, "I think 101's lost his grip. I always thought he was too full of himself, sir." "This isn't the time to let personal grudges cloud our judgment, Zero," said Nightingale, which was surprising coming from him. "Tiger's right," added Hawkeye. "If there was ever a time when we needed team spirit, that time is now." "Thank you, Hawkeye," Nightingale said. "But there is another factor to consider. Human error."
But Hero's as good an officer as any of us,
cried Mary. "True," thought Nightingale out loud, "but it's a factor I cannot dispel." Meanwhile, up in Spacehawk, 101 was checking the control rods and circuits. He approached the circuit board that had been sabotaged by Kizzy some hours previous, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. The red and blue wires were back as they were.
Everything's in order in this sector, Lieutenant,
reported 101.
Very well.
Came Hero's voice over 101's built-in radio.
Return to control. I have a call to make.
Later that day, inside Terrahawk, Mary and Nightingale were running a series of computer checks, and something inside Mary's mind was unsettling her.
Tiger,
She said,
would they really expose us? There were no lives lost in Nevada. It was a redundant plant.
"You're right," replied Nightingale, "but the United Nations is suspicious of secret organizations altogether, though I doubt they'd expose us. All they would do is quietly disband us." Suddenly, there was an urgent beeping from the console, and the video screen crackled into life. It was Hero and 101.
101 and I have carried out a full check of the ship,
said Hero.
There is nothing amiss.
"Our computer checks down here report 10-0 also," Nightingale added.
There was something else, Doctor,
said Hero.
I know what you must be thinking. We don't have a systems error, so there is only one other cause. Human error. We have a tradition amongst my people. In the face of ultimate failure, a person only has one honorable path to take. I have no wish to follow that path, but, Doctor,
He sighed.
I must resign immediately.
Nightingale was quite taken aback. "That's not necessary, Hero, and you know that. It's bad enough with Johnson putting pressure on us. Don't start splitting the team." Hero thought for a moment.
Very well.
Hero began.
I thank you for your support, Doctor, but if we don't have an answer in 12 hours, I will have to leave.
"We might just have to join you, Hero," said Nightingale under his breath. That evening, inside the Zeroid barracks, Sergeant Major Zero looked around to make sure no one was listening in. When he was doubly sure, he made a connection to Spacehawk on a console. "Hawknest to Space Sergeant 101, said Zero quietly. "Are you receiving?"
10-10.
came 101's voice.
But why all the secrecy?
"It's just that the Doctor wouldn't be too pleased with us taking matters into our own circuits, lad," replied Zero. "I've been thinking,"
And just what brilliant theory have you arrived at, Zero?
interrupted 101. "Less of your flippancy, lad," snapped Zero. "This is no time for fighting. Now, who do you reckon would get the most out of the Terrahawks being disbanded?"
Zelda, I guess?
"Precisely. I think she or one of her motley crew are behind this."
But I've checked Spacehawk and nothing's been tampered with.
Which only goes to prove that, if I'm right, there is someone or something on there what is putting things right again after the damage has been done. 101 thought.
You know, Zero,
He said eventually.
you might just have something there.
"I know, lad, and it's up to us to do something about it." The next day, Hero was studying the instruments on board Spacehawk. He was somewhat disheveled and unshaven. He was enjoying this situation as much as the other Terrahawks, which is to say, not a lot.
Lieutenant,
Said 101.
sorry to disturb you, but I've got a report of micrometeorite damage astern.
"What's the extent of the damage?" asked Hero.
I can't precisely say, sir, but may I suggest you take a look in Terrahawk for yourself?
"Yes, maybe you're right. I could do with a break for a few minutes." Hero left in Terrahawk. When he had gone, 101 decided to put the plan into action. The plucky Zeroid bounced down from his perch and rolled over to a nearby control panel.
Zero, are you there?
He asked as he made a connection to the cockpit of Terrahawk.
Raring to go, lad.
Replied Zero.
Good. I'm patching through to the life support telemetry now.
one of 101's many hatches opened and a plug came out, fastening into a socket on the control board. Back in Terrahawk, Zero scanned the readouts in front of him. There's no movement at all. Nothing. Then something caught Zero's eye. Wait a minute. The oxygen readout's moving. It's going down. Ever so slightly, mind you, but it is going down. Something, however, didn't sit right with 101.
But I invented the micrometeorite story to get the lieutenant out of the way, and he's the only one up here who uses oxygen.
So if he's in Treehawk,
Came Zero's voice.
that means something else is using up the ship's oxygen. Implement part 2 of our plan, lad.
101 unplugged himself and rolled to another part of the flight deck.
Emergency depressurization!
He cried. There was a great whoosh as small parts of debris were blown into space, followed by Kizzy, who shrieked as he flew away into the outer reaches of space before starting to fade and disappearing.
Zelda claims her own back again.
Thought 101. The next day, in the White House's lounge, Sergeant Major Zero was the center of the Terrahawks' attention. So how did you know the creature breathed oxygen? Asked Kate.
Well, Mom,
Began Zero.
we know from previous experience that the Martian's base is pressurized, so some of Zelda's cohorts must need oxygen to breathe. But I've got to admit, it was kind of a gamble.
And one that paid off, I'm pleased to say, chimed in Hawkeye. The chatter ceased abruptly as Nightingale walked in. He said nothing. Come on, Tiger, put us out of our misery, said Kate. So Tiger did. We're off the hook, he said. All the Terrahawks cheered. It felt good to know that their crusade against the Martians wouldn't stop anytime soon.